Now let's move on to the other big highlight of the day, and that is our interview with Cisco. So, Jeetu Patel, in fact, the president and CEO of Cisco, spoke to us exclusively on the sidelines of the event. And of course, he spoke about the kind of investments that Cisco is making in India. And we did ask him about what is going to define the next set of trends as far as AI is concerned. Given the fact that we've seen agentic AI, we've seen chatbots, he said that now AI will move into hardware. It will become more physical. What does he exactly mean when he says that AI is going to have a physical manifestation? Listen in. Thanks very much, Mr. Patel, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET Now at the India AI Impact Summit. Appreciate you taking the time out. Let me first begin by quoting what the Prime Minister said just a short while back in his address. He said that some companies and nations think that AI is a strategic asset and they develop it confidentially. India thinks that AI is beneficial only when codes are open and shareable. Now, in sectors like telecom, defense, and in fact, in power grids, how realistic is it for AI to remain open sourced?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me on the show. And I think India should take a moment and just celebrate how successful this event has been. It's been 250,000 people, probably the largest AI event that's ever been done in the world. So a lot to be proud of. When you think about open source versus closed source, I actually think there's a place for both. For both. And having an open source model so that you can get diffusion to be broadly applied is a very important dimension. And then there's going to be certain areas where these models are pretty expensive to train, and you might need to go out and monetize them effectively as well. So I think the best combination comes when you have the right level of combination of open source and closed source. And what the Prime Minister said today, I loved his line of, are you buy or what was the second thing, the opportunity side of it that he talked about? Like, do you approach this with fear or do you approach this with optimism and opportunity? And I feel like that notion of approaching AI with optimism while still being very clear of the downside effects that could be had is very important. And I think that's exactly what India is doing. You're very concerned about cybersecurity. You're very concerned about what's happening from misuse of this technology, but you're actually making sure that you're building this at population scale for the betterment of humanity, which I think is the way that we should approach it.
Right, and that has also been the view of several other leaders who have actually spoken, and we've heard them speak as well. Yeah. But Mr. Patel, let me also ask you, you've spoken on multiple platforms that, the AI revolution started with the usage of chatbots, and then we moved on to agentic AI. Yeah. But what will define the next wave of what the next trend as far as AI is concerned, and how is Cisco bracing for that?
So firstly, let's understand the big difference between chatbots and agentic. Chatbots was where AI was thought of as a tool for productivity. Agents is where this is now an augmented teammate that's a digital coworker that's going to work with us. And we are actually adding workers to society that are going to help each one of us. So each one of us is going to be a supervisor of agents. And I think that's going to have a profound implication on the kinds of problems we can solve, the kind of capacity we can add, and so there's a huge amount of upside on that dimension. The third big area then, if you think about agents, they're very good for knowledge work getting automated. When you go to the third phase, where you have physical AI, now you can start having work that's not knowledge work also get help of augmentation of agents. And so I feel like the three phases are: you started with chatbots, productivity tools, you then went to agents, which are more digital coworkers, and then you're going to go to the physical AI side. And I think you're going to see physical AI not too far off, and the combination of agentic and physical AI is going to actually open up possibilities that we didn't even think about dreaming to be able to solve these problems before.
Right. I'll come to that point in just a bit, but let me also ask you, since you're based in the United States, it's important to also address how the United States is essentially looking at AI. We've seen, big companies come out of the United States, and they've poured in millions of dollars, and that is what the Trump administration is also essentially looking at. Whereas in India, for example, the approach has largely been, like you stated, that it is to democratize AI. It has been a cost-efficient approach because we want to employ applications at scale. How do you think that there can be a convergence between the United States and what it is doing and what India is doing?
See, I don't think they're competing alternatives at all.
Okay.
I think when you start thinking about what America has done, we've invested billions of dollars on these foundation models. And those foundation models help the rest of the world to be able to take those models and then combine those models with small models and more fine-tuned models for your needs. And the combination of those two allow us to solve problems that we weren't able to solve before. So I feel like there's a very complementary approach based on what each country brings as assets, and then combining those together to make sure that you really tackle AI at population scale. And I think India will probably end up being one of the countries with the largest number of AI users. And it's tremendously important that, and the partnership and the alignment that we have between India and America is super strategic.
Right, right. So let me now focus on Cisco's approach to AI. In fact, you are agnostic to models, you're agnostic to players, you're also agnostic to platforms and infrastructure, and that perhaps is your de-risking strategy. In fact, you've come out with a product, but you've said that there will be multiple products in the future that will come out of Cisco's domain, but they will be designed and developed by AI. So I have two questions to ask you. One, how many products are you looking at launching? And what does that really mean for Cisco's workforce? Given the fact that these models, if you're stating that these will be developed by AI, then there is a realistic risk of them replacing your workforce.
So let me start with that second question, and then let me go to the first one. So the second question, there's a lot of fear that people have around, is AI going to take my job? And my advice to people is, don't worry about AI taking your job. Worry about someone that uses AI better than you that might take your job. Because the dexterity, the guidance I give to my team is not that if you use AI, your job's going to go away. But if you don't use AI, you can be guaranteed that you won't have a job because you won't be relevant in society a few years from now.